I never thought a birthday party could unravel my entire world, but the night that began with candles and laughter ended with betrayal, humiliation, and a revelation that changed everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. The day started like any other Saturday in our Boston suburb, brimming with anticipation. My husband Michael was turning 35, and I wanted to make it unforgettable. After 5 years of marriage, I knew every detail that would make him smile. A 3-tiered red velvet cake from his favorite bakery, the playlist we'd danced to at our wedding, and the perfect decorations that transformed our home into a celebration haven. Our colonial-style house gleamed, every corner a testament to the hours I'd spent preparing. Friends, family, and Michael's colleagues from his law firm arrived one by one, filling the air with laughter and chatter. Compliments flowed as guests admired the setup, and I flitted around, ensuring everyone felt welcome. But even amidst the smiles and small talk, there was a tension I couldn't ignore, a cloud that seemed to hover over the evening. Evelyn, Michael's impeccably dressed mother, arrived late, her presence as commanding as ever. She was dressed to impress, her designer outfit perfectly pressed, but her sharp eyes and tighter-than-usual smile hinted at something more. Evelyn and I had always had a strained relationship. To her, I was never enough, a simple graphic designer, unworthy of her ambitious son. Still, I pushed those feelings aside, determined to make the night about Michael. As the cake was carried out and everyone gathered to sing happy birthday, Michael's smile lit up the room. For a brief moment, everything felt worth it. Every late night planning, every dollar spent. The party felt like a success, a testament to our life together. But that fleeting happiness shattered the moment Evelyn stood, her voice commanding attention. Tonight, she began with a tone that dripped with false sweetness. We have a grand gesture to share, a true testament to family values. I turned to Michael, confused, searching his face for a clue. But his expression was unreadable, his eyes avoiding mine. Then he said it, his voice cold and rehearsed. We've decided it's time to gift the house to my mother. The words hit me like a blow, sucking the air from the room. Our house? The home we saved for, planned, and built together? Michael, the man I thought I knew, stood by Evelyn's side, silent and complicit. And as a stack of legal papers appeared, Evelyn's triumphant smirk told me everything. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. They had planned this, ambushing me on what should have been a day of celebration. I managed to choke out, "I don't understand. Michael, why would you?" But before I could finish, Evelyn interjected with a venomous hiss. "Sign the papers, dear. It's the right thing to do for the family. Or don't you care about Michael's happiness?" The room fell silent, the weight of betrayal suffocating. And as I looked into Michael's eyes, pleading for even a shred of support, I realized I was alone in this fight. The silence in the room was deafening. The guests who had been laughing moments before now stood frozen, their eyes darting between me, Michael, and Evelyn. My heart raced as I struggled to process what was happening. This house, our home, wasn't just a structure. It was the foundation of our dreams, the place where we envisioned our future, and they wanted to take it all away with a few signatures. "No," I said firmly, my voice trembling but resolute. "I won't sign anything." Evelyn's expression twisted into a look of disdain, her lips curling as if she had tasted something sour. "Don't be difficult, dear," she snapped, her tone low but sharp enough to cut glass. "This is what's best for the family. Don't you want Michael to be happy?" Michael stood silent, his face a mask of indifference, but his silence spoke volumes. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wasn't going to break, not in front of them. "This is our home, Michael," I said, turning to him, my voice stronger now. "Our home. We built this together. How could you do this to me?" For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes, but then Evelyn placed a hand on his arm, and the flicker was gone. "Just sign the papers, Ko," he said coldly. "Let's not make a scene." "A scene?" I echoed, disbelief washing over me. You brought legal documents to your birthday party and ambushed me in front of our friends and family, and I'm the one making a scene? Evelyn stepped closer, her voice dripping with condescension. You're being selfish. This is about family, about loyalty. You wouldn't understand. That was the final straw. Before I could respond, Michael suddenly stormed over to the table where the remains of the cake sat. In one swift motion, he grabbed the cake platter. My breath caught as he turned toward me, his face contorted with anger. Fine, he barked. If you want to embarrass us, then let me make it official. And then it happened. The cake, the beautiful three-tiered masterpiece I had spent days planning, flew through the air and hit me square in the face. Gasps erupted around the room as red velvet and cream cheese frosting splattered across my face, hair, and clothes. For a moment, the world stood still. The humiliation was overwhelming. I could feel the frosting dripping down my neck, hear the stunned whispers of the guests, and see Evelyn's smirk out of the corner of my eye. But as I wiped the frosting from my eyes, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about a cake. This wasn't just about a house. This was about respect, about dignity, and Michael had destroyed it all. The room was thick with tension as I straightened my shoulders, my voice cutting through the silence like a blade. I won't sign, I repeated, this time with a calm, unwavering strength that surprised even me. Evelyn's smirk faltered, and Michael's expression hardened. You're making a mistake, he warned, his voice trembling with anger. No, I said, locking eyes with him. You did, and I'm done. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the house, cake crumbs trailing behind me. The whispers and murmurs of the guests faded into the background as I stepped out into the cool night air. I didn't know where I was going, but one thing was certain, I wasn't coming back. The days after the disastrous party were a blur of decisions and determination. Sarah connected me with a skilled family lawyer, Ms. Wright, who wasted no time helping me understand my rights. Her firm voice and steady presence became the shield I needed to protect myself. Michael and Evelyn's attempts to intimidate me escalated. From legal threats to manipulative texts, they tried every trick to make me cave. But each time, I stood my ground, guided by the words Ms. Wright had said during our first meeting. Boundaries are non-negotiable. I focused on reclaiming my life. With Sarah's help, I began transforming the house into my own sanctuary. New paint, fresh furniture arrangements, and a quiet strength filled the space Evelyn had tried to dominate. The legal battle was tough. Michael, backed by Evelyn, contested everything. But every petty accusation they hurled only strengthened my resolve. I gathered evidence, rallied support from friends and neighbors, and held on to the truth of what was right. When Michael finally offered a settlement, agreeing to buy me out at a fair price, I accepted. Letting go of the house wasn't easy, but I realized it was just a building. My real home was the strength and independence I had rediscovered. The day I handed over the keys, I felt no regret, only relief. I walked away from that house with my head held high, ready to write the next chapter of my life. After leaving the house, I moved into a cozy apartment in a vibrant Boston neighborhood. The transition wasn't without challenges, but each step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I threw myself into my graphic design work, rediscovering the passion I had once buried under years of compromise. I started painting again, joined a local book club, and even volunteered at a women's shelter. These activities weren't just distractions. They became avenues for growth, healing, and connection. Support came from unexpected places. Mrs. Johnson, my once distant neighbor, brought me casseroles and heartfelt encouragement. Friends like Sarah stood by me, reminding me of my strength when I felt overwhelmed. Michael reached out once, sending a letter of apology that stirred conflicting emotions. While it was validating to see him acknowledge his mistakes, it was clear that our journeys were now separate. The life I was building no longer included him. Months later, as the legal battle ended, I hosted a small gathering in my new apartment, a celebration of resilience and new beginnings. Surrounded by friends, I raised a glass and shared a toast. Here's to growth, to the family we choose, and to never settling for less than we deserve. That night, as I stood alone in my apartment, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I was ready to embrace the future on my terms, with a heart full of strength and hope. With the legal battle and emotional turmoil behind me, I focused on building a life that was entirely my own. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined me. They were reminders of the battles I'd fought and won. In the months that followed, I dedicated myself to personal growth. Therapy sessions helped me unpack years of suppressed emotions, turning my pain into lessons. Dr. Lassen's words echoed in my mind. Boundaries are non-negotiable. I made this my mantra, applying it not only to relationships but to every area of my life. Professionally, my graphic design business flourished. With my creativity unleashed, I took on ambitious projects that pushed my skills and brought a newfound sense of fulfillment. The small victories added up: a glowing client review, a successful campaign launch, and even an award nomination in a local design competition. Socially, I cultivated relationships that enriched my life. The book club became a cherished circle of friends, and volunteering at the women's shelter gave me a purpose beyond myself. These women, with their stories of resilience, reminded me that starting over wasn't just possible, it was empowering. One evening, while tidying up after work, I found Michael's letter tucked into a drawer. For a moment, I hesitated. Then, with a calm I hadn't felt before, I placed it in the shredder. It wasn't anger or bitterness, it was closure. I didn't need that part of my past anymore. The real breakthrough came when I hosted a small art exhibit featuring my paintings. Each piece reflected a part of my journey: pain, growth, and triumph. The exhibit was a success, and as strangers admired my work, I felt a profound sense of pride. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. A year after walking out of my old house, I stood on the balcony of my apartment, watching the city lights twinkle like stars. The woman I had become felt worlds apart from the one who had endured betrayal and humiliation. She was stronger, wiser, and unafraid to demand more from life. The journey wasn't without its challenges, but I had learned one invaluable truth. Home isn't a place, it's a state of being. It's found in the people who uplift you, the passions that ignite you, and the peace that comes when you live authentically. As I sipped my tea under the city's glow, a small smile crept across my face. This was my life, messy, imperfect, and entirely mine. And for the first time in years, I felt truly at home. Months turned into seasons, and I found myself standing at the edge of a brand new chapter. Life had taken on a rhythm that was uniquely mine, one filled with purpose, creativity, and the peace I had fought so hard to claim. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about embracing the lessons it had taught me. My journey through betrayal, heartache, and rediscovery had reshaped me into someone I barely recognized, a version of myself that was unapologetically bold and unshakably confident. One morning, as sunlight filtered through my apartment's windows, I stared at a blank canvas propped on my easel. I'd been commissioned to create a piece for a local gallery, a reflection of resilience and renewal. The irony wasn't lost on me. My life had become the very embodiment of those themes. I painted with a fervor that felt cathartic, each stroke an expression of the battles I'd fought and the victories I'd claimed. When the painting was unveiled at the gallery, its title spoke volumes: Phoenix Rising. It wasn't just art, it was my story told through color and texture. The gallery event was a turning point. The buzz around my work opened doors I hadn't even knocked on. Invitations to collaborate, feature in exhibitions, and even lead workshops poured in. For the first time, my career wasn't just a job, it was a calling. But life wasn't just about work. I'd built a circle of friends who felt like family, Sarah, of course, at the heart of it all, and others who had supported me along the way. Together, we celebrated milestones and comforted one another through setbacks. They were my people and I was theirs. And then there was the unexpected, a man I met at one of my exhibits. Ethan, a quiet yet witty writer who shared my love for creativity and storytelling. Unlike the whirlwind romance I'd once known, this connection was built on mutual respect and a deep understanding of one another's journeys. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't forced, it was simply real. One evening, as Ethan and I walked through a park lit with fairy lights, he turned to me and said, "You're incredible, you know that? The way you've rebuilt your life, it's inspiring." His words brought a lump to my throat. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And others could see it too. A year to the day since I left the house that once felt like a prison, I hosted another gathering. This time, it was at my apartment, a cozy celebration of life, growth, and the people who had been part of my journey. As laughter filled the room and glasses clinked, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I realized something profound that night. My past had shaped me, but it didn't define me. I had walked through fire and come out stronger, brighter, and more alive than ever. This wasn't just the end of one story, it was the beginning of another. As I stood on my balcony that night, Ethan joined me, and we gazed at the city skyline. "What's next for you?" he asked, his voice warm and curious. I smiled, feeling the weightlessness of endless possibilities. "Anything I want," I said confidently. And I meant it. My story was far from over, and for the first time, I couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. With the weight of the past fully lifted, I began focusing on what it truly meant to live, not just to exist, but to embrace every moment as an opportunity to grow. My new apartment, once a temporary refuge, became a canvas for self-expression and transformation. I filled the space with colors and textures that mirrored my renewed spirit. Walls were adorned with art that told my story, shelves held books that fed my mind, and plants brought a sense of life and connection to nature. It was a home that reflected not only my taste but my journey, a testament to resilience and reinvention. Professionally, my graphic design business flourished in ways I hadn't thought possible. Freed from the stifling environment of my marriage, my creativity reached new heights. A client once described my designs as unapologetically bold, a compliment that felt like it was meant for more than just my work. But it wasn't all about work. For the first time, I prioritized joy and exploration. I traveled to places I'd only dreamed of visiting, taking in the culture, food, and beauty of the world. From hiking trails in the Rockies to quiet moments in Parisian cafes, each experience was a reminder of how much life had to offer when fear and compromise were left behind. My relationships also deepened. Sarah remained my anchor, her unwavering support a constant reminder of the power of true friendship. My circle of friends expanded to include people who genuinely celebrated my wins and stood by me during tough days. Together, we laughed, cried, and created memories that became the fabric of my new life. Ethan became a significant part of my journey. Patient and kind, he understood the scars I carried without judgment. With him, there was no pretense, no need to prove anything. For the first time, I felt seen and valued for exactly who I was. Our relationship was a partnership of equals, built on trust, respect, and shared dreams. One afternoon, Ethan and I visited an art fair where I was displaying my work. As we walked through the rows of vibrant booths, he paused in front of my painting, Phoenix Rising. "This," he said, gesturing to the fiery hues and bold strokes, "is you. It's everything you've overcome, everything you've become." His words resonated deeply. Phoenix Rising wasn't just a piece of art. It was my declaration to the world that I had reclaimed my power, my identity, and my happiness. On the anniversary of the day I left my old life behind, I held a quiet celebration for myself. I spent the day reflecting, journaling, and revisiting the moments that had brought me to where I was. There were tears, yes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude for the strength I'd discovered and the life I was building. That evening, as I sat on my balcony under a blanket of stars, I raised a glass to the journey that had brought me here. To freedom, to growth, and to the future, I whispered into the night. I didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. My happiness, my peace, and my boundaries were non-negotiable. And with that realization, I smiled, ready to embrace whatever came next. In the end, I found peace, strength, and a renewed sense of self. My old life was a chapter closed, and in its place, I built a life of authenticity, surrounded by people who valued and supported me. I had reclaimed my identity, discovered love on my terms, and embraced the freedom to live boldly. Standing on my balcony, under the stars, I raised a glass to the journey, a journey of resilience, transformation, and hope. The past no longer defined me. The future was mine to write. And with a smile, I stepped forward into a life that was truly my own.